Hi, I'm Dylan Gowan, and welcome back to another episode of Overkill Global, BangerTV's international heavy metal review show. So this week, we're going all the way to China and checking out their folk metal scene. For this list, it's only going to include bands that are from mainland China, so no bands from Hong Kong or Taiwan in this list, even though you should check out some of those bands because they're coming up with stuff that's really, really cool. So what do we know about China? Well, Banger Films went to China to interview Tang Dynasty on the Great Wall as part of the Global Metal documentary. China, of course, is the most populated country on the planet. It also is home to one of the biggest economies, and when researching this episode, I found something that was pretty interesting about how metal found its way into China. Basically, bands that didn't sell well in North America, in Europe, their records or tapes were transported all the way to China to be recycled. But many of those tapes weren't recycled. Actually, a lot of people listened to it and started ripping them and trading them, and then the scene kind of grew from there. So why Chinese folk metal? Well, despite me being a massive prog fan, I love folk metal as well. And I haven't really found a lot of bands that come from China doing this style, so I wanted to do my own research. I was able to find some really cool albums that I really want to share with you guys. If you're new to Overkill Global, we always like to throw it to a local expert. This guy needs no introduction. If you're familiar with folk metal, this is Nature from Tengger, Calvary, and he's going to give his essential pick of Chinese folk metal.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Nature from Tengger, Cavalry. We play nomadic folk metal, which incorporates Mongolian, Kazakh, Central Asian, all kinds of nomadic folk music into heavy metal. I think in Asia, there's a lot of musicians incorporate folk with heavy metal, and that was, I think, largely inspired by a lot of Western bands that incorporate, like Viking folk, Celtic folk into heavy metal. So on the Asian perspective, we want to incorporate our own culture, but kind of have the same energy as the Viking folk metal or, the European folk metal stuff. If I'm gonna introduce one band that you guys should check out, that definitely should be Nine Treasures. They were located in Beijing, and we kind of played for years together. They also play Mongolian folk metal. They sing in original Mongolian language. It's absolutely fantastic metal band. Think about, something like Korpi Kalani play Mongolian folk music, and they have a bunch of really cool instruments. So you definitely should check it out, Nine Treasures.
Just a quick reminder, this is not a top tier list. We usually just go in chronological order. Our first stop is in 2008 with Voodoo Kung Fu's self-titled debut album, which came out independently. These guys formed in Beijing in 1998, and they were originally called Masturbation. They changed their name to Voodoo Kung Fu in 2003, and they put out a crazy album. So just putting this out there, these guys are insane. And it's due to the fact that their vocalist Li Nan actually traveled to Mongolia and Tibet and learned cultures and traditions, throat singing and about different instrumentations, and incorporated that into extreme metal. I've never really heard folk metal this aggressive. They really showcase that kind of extreme style where they almost go from this folk interlude and then it goes all the way intense and then it goes right back to folk. And it's never jarring. It always flows really, really well, and that's what's strong about it. Their vocalist got bit by a cobra, and when he was released from hospital, he recorded his vocals immediately after. That's just dedication, or stupidity, I don't know. And here's another fun fact about this band. They were the first Chinese band to ever play Wacken open air. So to have that kind of title, that's really, really cool that you're really representing your scene on such a global stage. What's really unique about these guys is that they incorporate different traditions and cultures from the regions around them, such as Tibet and Mongolia, and they just blend this crazy sound with extreme metal, and it all blends really, really well. So that's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 skulls. For my second pick, we're jumping all the way to 2012. This is the Shaman's third EP called Whale Song, which was released independently. They formed in 2006 in Shangsheng, and they started it originally as kind of an industrial noise metal band, and then they started incorporating a bunch of folk elements, and now they're a folk metal band. So this is a really short EP. It's only 16 minutes long, and it has one intro track, two instrumentals, and two songs with singing, actually. As much as I enjoyed the instrumental tracks, the band really shines with the song you just heard, Whale Song, and Moby Dick, the only two songs on the EP with clean singing on it. What's really cool about this band is that they incorporate Eastern and Western folk instrumentation, as well as just creating this wicked sound where it blends the two styles together. They remind me a lot of Helvetii, and they've kind of built off of that formula and made their own style with it, which is really, really cool. Their entire discography is worth a listen, their first EP all the way up until Whale Song. Really wish this was a full-length CD. It's only 16 minutes long, but it definitely grabs your attention for the full 16 minutes. That's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 skulls. All right, for my third pick, we're jumping all the way to 2017. This is Dream Spirit with their second full-length album, General Triumphant, which came out on Totemism Productions. They formed in 2005 in Taiyuan. Since then, they've relocated to Beijing. They combined folk metal with power metal. Here's the third track off that album, Of Daggers and Men.
是我的忠言，孤岛与我相依为命，血色彩。
This band combines folk metal with power metal. There's lots of energizing riffs, intense drumming. The way that they incorporate the riffing of power metal with folk instrumentation, they just create this really cool blend, and it works really, really well. Sunji is an awesome vocalist. He can really hit those high notes. Awesome clean singing. Another great thing about this band is their use of keyboards, and they create a nice atmosphere with a lot of the folk instrumentation on this album. Not only is this band very talented, but they're also very creative. That's why I'm giving it 4 out of 5 skulls. Staying in 2017, for my fourth pick, I'm choosing Sedum with their debut album, Anthology of Ebony, which came out on Infected Blood Records. To say that these guys are an underground band is an understatement. They have no Facebook, no Instagram, no YouTube. It took a lot of digging and unfortunately a lot of piracy just to find this album, but it's worth the find. Here's the track off of it called Ebony. So this is the newest band off my list. They formed in 2015 in Taiwan, not to be confused with the other Taiwan. This is mainland China, Taiwan. What I loved about this record was its use of dynamic range. It uses the folk elements pretty sparingly, but when they use it in their songs, it's very effective. Of course, on tracks like Ebony and Setting Sun and Kill Without Forgiveness, those are just great highlights on the album that really showcases their strong songwriting. If you're able to find more information about this band, please share it in the comments below because I really want to know more about this band. Anthology of Ebony is a great, solid debut. That's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 skulls. Okay, so for my final pick, I'm kind of bending the rules here a little bit. Some of you in the comments section are saying, where's Tengger Cavalry? Where the hell is Tengger Cavalry? Where the hell is Tengger Cavalry? Hold on a second. The reason why we're not including a full length by Tengger Cavalry is because the history of it is a little complex. Its main base is in New York because the band was founded in New York. Nature from being from Beijing, but even Nature has said in interviews being relatable to his more Mongolian side than his Chinese side. So it's kind of complex and I didn't want to say the wrong thing and I didn't want to misrepresent anybody, but I have the perfect solution and it's actually spearheaded by Nature himself. It's a compilation album that is basically telling the untold story of China and trying to break personal stereotypes. This album is called Sound of the Raging Steppe by Tengger Cavalry, Skald, Liberation, Syntas, and Nan. And this came out on Tengger Cavalry's independent label, Tengger x Cavalry Recordings. So it not only includes one great folk metal band, it includes 5 great folk metal bands, and since I want to hear Warhorse, have a listen. in a weird way, it's a concept album that tells the history of China, about the regions in it, and they're using 5 different voices to showcase that history. Great instrumentation on it, great use of Mongolian throat singing and the horse and cello and Central and Mongolian instruments. Everything I talked about previously in this episode is all compact into this one album. And it really showcases the mighty Tengger Cavalry, great up-and-coming talent, and it's just an overall enjoyable record, and it's a bit of a history lesson. That's why I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 skulls. So what do we learn from Chinese folk metal? Well, it's really cool to see blends of traditions from regions that are around China, like Tibet and Mongolia, incorporated into the music, using traditions of throat singing and classical Chinese instruments within folk metal. It's a great addition to the genre, and I really hope I get to hear more bands from China very soon. So of course, we're gonna go to the Patreon shoutouts. 2 out of the 3 albums that you guys picked were actually originally on my list, so I had to do a lot of digging to try and find the other ones. The first 2 being, of course, 9 Treasures with Wisdom Eyes that came out in 2016 on Pilot Music, as well as Black Kirin with National Trauma, which came out independently in 2016. And finally, the last album that you guys recommended was Eda Hey, In Case the Wind Blows, which came out on Pest Records in 2013. Those 3 albums really showcase the scene, so great picks, guys.
Fight those who enslave. Unification or death. Take gun to